guys, today let's see about how authentication works in Ionic 2 application. First of all, authentication is essential for all our web apps, right? We need to provide some level of accessibility or security to our applications to certain users. For example, registered users can access all the user page, user area and everything, whereas non-registered users can access only the dashboard or home page or the landing page of your application. So authentication is essential to protect the features of our application from non-registered users or hackers, as well as providing accessibility options to the registered users. For example, if a user is registered as an admin, he should have the privilege to modify existing features of the applications or modify the users levels in the application, whereas if a user is not an admin, he should have his own privileges within the application. So let's see how we could do this authentication thing in our Ionic app today. First of all, this is part 1 of the video as in my blog series. So now in this video I will show you how to build a backend, a REST API backend, upon which we will and once this REST API backend is created, the REST endpoints will be created, which will then be consumed by the application, front-end application, which we will create in Ionic 2. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I'm opening up my console. Creating a simple app. Okay, now let's open this project in brackets. Brackets is the editor I'll be using for this demo. Okay, now we have just created an npm a node application, right? So next we'll create a server file. Okay, in this server.js we will write the server code, that is I'll show you. Before that, we will install 4 npm modules which will be essential to us in this application, in building this application for us. They are Mongoose, Express, Morgan, and one more thing, course, that is the cross origin resource sharing module. So we'll install those. Let this get installed. Meanwhile, we'll write our code here. Okay, hopefully that would be installed by now. It's still installing. Okay, let it happen. We'll get started with the application now. First of all, let's create a new folder inside this. Oh, it's over. Okay, and name the folder config. Inside that, let's create a file that would be the database.js. This file, export the database URL. And the DB. Okay, now we will require this file there. Okay, now mongoose dot connect config dot database. This will connect us to the database, and then we'll write mongoose dot connection dot on open function now let's write the code. If the connection is successfully open, we'll just log it first. Connected, and then start writing our application where app equal to express. Then we'll use those required things here. Express app.use. First we'll use Morgan. Morgan is an excellent logger, and then app.use course. Okay, now let's start this thing. Listen. Can give a port number here. Sorry. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now what we have done is that we have created a config file. I have created a database.js config file which has the URL of the database, that is MongoDB, running locally, and then we have required that here used mongoose to connect with the DB, and then what we have done is we have created an app using Express. That Express app is the one that's running on port 3333, and not only that, that Express app is now using Morgan and Course inside it. So now that we have got this our part running, let's get started with the actual code of the application. Now I'll create 3 more files: mkdir model first directory, and then I'll use a directory separately for methods, and then another one for authentication. This we could name as first we'll import mongoose. Okay, now next we'll use this mongoose to create a schema. Where schema equal to mongoose.schema. Okay, now we'll be using another thing called JWT. JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. The JSON Web Tokens are the ones which we will send as responses to requests calling for authentication. That is, when the requests come in, post requests come in from the front end along with username and password, we will check that username and password in our DB, and if those are verified and if he is a valid user, then we will be sending a JSON Web Token as a response, which the front end application can use for the other requests, so that we will know that the user is authenticated. So now here we will use a module called Bcrypt. Bcrypt is used for encryption. I have already discussed about Bcrypt in another video, in a previous post on how to encrypt your password before storing it in MongoDB. So please kindly refer to that. Okay, now we need to install Bcrypt, right? Okay, now where user schema equal to new schema, and we will create a new schema. This will have two fields, that is name, string, require true, and one more thing, sorry, I think I'm missing something here, guys. Yeah, got it. Name shouldn't be here, right? This is type string. Type. Yeah. Now password. Okay, now we have a name and a password field inside our user schema. Now we need to encrypt the password before saving it to the MongoDB. So we'll use Bcrypt for that. I have already covered how to encrypt the password, as I mentioned before in a previous post. So I'll just copy paste that code from there. Okay, this compare password method is used to compare the password when we receive it from the front-end application. So let's just export a model from here. Mongoose.model will be user. Model we are exporting will be user schema. Okay, now we will require this in the server.js file. Why should we require this in the server.js? I don't think this would be necessary. So let's go ahead and create the other files. Next, now that we have a model, we need a system in which the request from the user comes in, and then the parameters username and password are extracted and then sent for verification to the DB. And then once it's valid, it should return, and the system should send a JWT token as a response if valid, or an error message as a response if invalid. So we need to build a system like that, and for building that system we'll be using two things. One is the JWT, as I discussed earlier, that would be used to encode and decode the tokens before sending and receiving respectively. Whereas the other thing, the strategy used to encode or sign those tokens would be, we would use a module called passport for this. For that, passport is especially used for authentication. You can read about it online. So we'll first create the passport strategy for that. And first we'll go to config and add a secret here so that we can use it to sign our tokens. Could be any secret. Now what we need to do is add a strategy. Okay. Now I'll create a passport.js file inside this config file itself. Passport.js, and then I'll write the code for creating a new strategy. Passport jwt dot strategy. So we need to install this, right? So npm install passport jwt and jwt simple. We'll be using that module later on. Okay. Okay, now this where user equal to require that thing which we created back there, model user.js, then where config equal to require config database. Why we are requiring this is here we have declared the secret variable, so we need that to sign, right? So we are doing that. We are requiring config, spelling mistake, config. Okay, now module.exports equal to function passport. We'll have options. Okay, then we'll use this strategy, passport dot use new JWT strategy. We'll pass the options, function, new sales. Okay, that would be our strategy. Now we'll call the strategy in server.js and use it here. First we'll initialize that app.use. Oh, we haven't called it here in passport. Passport.initialize Okay, then we'll require it. Config passport Wilson. Okay, so we have strategy in place, and that strategy will be used by the application. Now let's go ahead and create the method. And then inside the methods, I'll make a new thing called actions. Okay. Now here, what are things we need is that we need the user model, and we need the JWT simple module, and then we need the config thing. Yeah, that's it. So config even I don't think we need. Let's code it out first, and then we'll think about it. Yeah, config we need, right? So that we could sign it with the config.secret variable. Yeah, we need it. Where user equal to require models. Why isn't it highlighting? Or oh, okay. Now where config equal to require config database. Okay, now we need one more JWT equal to require JWT simple. Okay, now we have all the three in place. We'll start writing our functions. Authenticate function, request and response, user.find1. We'll just find the user based on the name. Okay, name request.body.name, and if the user is found, we'll just, if it's error, we'll throw it. Okay, so if it's not a user, which means that there is no user existing with that name, then we'll send a response as, we'll give a status as 403, and send the response as success false message authentication failed, user not found. Okay, then what we need to do is if the user is found, we need to verify the password, right? So what we'll do is we need to write a else method, else user.compare password. This is the compare password method which we had in our model file. User.compare password, we'll send the password request body.password, and then we'll return a function which will have the arguments or is match. If it's a match and not an error, then if it's a match, then we can just go ahead and create the token, right? Token jwt.encode user config.secret. Okay, then we'll just send it response.json success to token is token. Now a few people might ask the question, what if someone gets this response and tries to see it? It will have the, since you are sending the user object, the object will have both the username and password. So what if someone sees it? But don't worry guys, it will have only the username. The password will be the salted version which we had encrypted before storing it in the DB. It will be the same encrypted version of the password. So the user won't have, the attacker won't have a chance of seeing the password stored in the user object. So it will be secure as always. Okay, now what we need to do is if user is not found, if error is okay, so we need, if user is found and the password is wrong, we need to have a clause for that, right? So if or could just write it as I'm still thinking. If user is found and password doesn't match, means it will come here. Else response.json or response.status will give a status of 403 here. Dot send. I'm sorry guys, are you able to see this? Should I increase the font size? It's 14, right? Yeah, 14. Then you'll be able to see this, I guess. Response.send. So we'll send a success is equal to false, and the message would be authentication failed, wrong password. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Now we need to export this. Okay, now we have a method that will get the incoming request, take the name from the body of the request, and then match it against the DB. If the user is found, it will send a response JWT token as a response. If it's not found, it will send an error. Okay, so now let's go back to our server file. And then now we should create a root for this, right? So that we can give an API endpoint to the user. So we'll just go ahead and create the root for that inside our roots folder. Roots.js where express equal to require express. Where express equal to require express, where router equal to, no, we'll also have this thing actions file, where actions equal to require config, sorry, not config, methods actions. Okay, now what we need to do is we need a router, where router equal to express.router. Then we'll assign this router.post authenticate actions dot, what was that, authenticate. This was our function name, right? Okay, now module dot exports equal to router. Then we'll require the router first. Roots equal to require /roots/, and then we'll use that. Okay, sorry, not app.use routes. Then what else do we need to use, guys? Yeah, we will need obviously we'll need a body parser so that we could parse the name and password right from the request. So we'll go ahead and install that first of all. Okay, so we'll ensure that the app uses the body parser. What do we need that for? That is, we need to write it here. App.use body parser.url encoded extended is false. Then app.use body parser.json, so that it converts it into a JSON format and then starts parsing it. Yeah, that's it, guys. Have you typed out a lot of code? If everything goes fine, we should have an excellent API system. The reason why I type most of the code and don't copy paste it is that so that people following along with me in this video will also have time to type it along with me, and thereby learn it along with this video, so that it would be more helpful to people. That is the main reason. Now hopefully, if I haven't made any typos, which I think I probably won't have, this should go. Okay, guys, so now that we have a system now, we could test it, but the problem is that we need to add users to the DB before testing, right? Since we have only a route for authentication, which we could do only if a user already exists in a database, and we could check against that database and see if whether he is a valid user or not, right? So we could just add a user using Mongo's console itself, like db.collection.insert, and we could insert the user in a JSON format. But the problem is that for the password we need to run it through the Bcrypt module to generate a hashed salted version of the password, right? That would be like difficult to do, not impossible but difficult to do. So rather than that, we could write a simple method here itself in our backend that would enable us, we could write a new route that would a new API endpoint that would enable us to create a user upon a post request. So it won't take much time. I'll do that quickly. Okay, so we have this, and inside the actions, come on, add new function, just response, and if dot name or request dot body dot password, then response dot JSON success false message enter all values. Okay, so if there is no body, if the body of the request doesn't have the name or the password, then our response would be success false and enter all the values. If not, okay, now if that passes else, we should save that, right? So where new user equal to user of name would be request.body.name, and password would be request.body.password, and then we should save this new user dot save function error or new user. Then if it's error, response dot JSON success false, message failed to save. Okay, if it's not an error, if it sucks, no, okay, just use else response.json saved, no sorry, success pro message successfully saved. Okay, now we have the root for, we'll just create the root. Router.post add user action.add new. Okay, now we have a root for adding a new user and we have a root for authenticating a user. We have done two stuff in the backend now, and we have two API endpoints for both of them. So and one more thing I forgot to mention is that, guys, this extract JWT function in our strategy is required now as of the new passport JWT module. So you need to add that and then give a JWT from request thing in the field in the options when encoding the thing. So that the use of this is that whenever a new request comes in, this strategy will get the request and get the token to extract the token from the auth header. You have a method here, right? From auth header it will extract the token and then verify it using our strategy which we are using to sign that token. That is the purpose of this extract JWT. We need to use this, I forgot to mention it that time. And then now we have a root endpoint for this also. Let's get testing. Let's get the testing started. Not Ionic, sorry. Node server.js action. No, it's not action, it actions. Okay. Okay, Mongo is connected, server is running. Fine. So first we'll just add a new user. I'm using Postman, guys. Postman is a highly useful REST API testing client. Testing tool. You could use any other testing tool also, like something like SOAP URL testing or something was there. Okay, so add user, and then we'll add this Raja test123. Okay, and send. Successfully saved. So this is another useful tool, RoboMongo, which I use for playing with the MongoDB. DB is Ionic DB, collections, users, and we have that Raja. Test123 is a salted hashed version because our password got encrypted before it got saved, right? So yeah, now we have saved a user. Now we'll try authenticating this user by passing him in the request. So that API is authenticate, right? Okay, and the name and password will be the same. We'll send. See, we are authenticated and the response we have received a token. Now this token will be sent back to the front-end application which made the request. So only if the user is valid, this token will be sent back, and the user can use the same token again and again to send other requests, so that we will identify those requests as authenticated requests. This is the simple but secure authentication standard. So we have now seen the how to successfully wire up the back end of the authentication process which we are doing. This part 2 will contain the second part, the part 2 will contain the front-end application which we are going to develop using Ionic, which will consume these two endpoints, and part 3 will cover how we could send requests using this token, so that authenticated requests using this token from our Ionic app to this backend. Yeah, that's the end of part 1, guys. Whatever I have told you so far, I'll put it in a GitHub. Whatever code we have written so far, I'll put it in a GitHub repo and post the link on my blog tphangout.com. Description will be below this video. So yeah, that's it, guys. If you have any questions, just drop a comment, or if you would like a tutorial about any other aspect or any other programming related to topic related to Ionic or Angular, just post it in a comment below. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I'll post part 2 soon. Yeah, thanks. Peace.